Let's get into it. A brand new edition of the Tall Can Audio Podcast. Matt Robinson with you, as always, in the TCA studio in beautiful Bytown, Canada. Happy to be joined again by our buddy Bunda. This time, we're doing this one online, but that's such as... Well, the roads aren't great right now. I know it was a busy work day for you. Appreciate you making the time, as always, man. How are you?
Matty, I am good. How are you doing? Merry Christmas season to you. I know you're used to me being the Halloween guy, but you know what? We're into December now, and we're a couple weeks in. We've been playing music on CFRA since like December 1st, yes. Christmas music, that is. I'm in the Christmas spirit now. I can finally admit it. I've watched a Christmas movie. You know what?
Which one was it? What did we watch?
We watched I'll Be Home for Christmas. It's kind of like my old 90s, like kind of...
Is that Jonathan Taylor Thomas? Is that
the one? Yeah, Jessica Biel, looking good. Yeah, way back. Growing up, I loved it, and it's like, I've already pushed that
was creepy.
One through.
I don't know why I did that. I don't know how old she would have been at that point. That was maybe an inappropriate way to react to Jessica Biel, but I think people know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, she was everyone's heartthrob watching, like, Seventh Heaven back in the day. Yep. That was her. That was her era. But yeah, so no, I'm in the Christmas mood. I'm good, man. How are you doing? Are you in the Christmas mood yet?
Yeah, of course, man. I dig Christmas. It's the roads are shit right now. It's not like nice
it's Christmas
snow.
Season, eh?
It's kind of sleet, wet, shitty snow and whatever else. But yeah, suddenly my mind's on Jessica Biel. You're right. Back a young Matt was quite enthralled by her, and it didn't change as I got any older, and so did she. Man, that's I don't know. Yeah. Jessica Biel. Good call. Good pull. That's not one of my favorite Christmas movies. I haven't started in on the movies yet, but it'll come. And I like to watch, honestly, some of the old Simpsons Christmas specials or even the Family Guy Christmas specials. But I got time for classic Rudolph and some of these sorts of things. On Christmas Eve, my family typically ends up watching, because my mom really likes it, believe it or not, the... Little House on the Prairie Christmas special.
Okay, yeah.
It's not good, but it's...
I've never watched it, so I can't really comment.
No, and it's more of a tradition for her than for us. And now you sort of get a kick out of it because we've seen it so many times over the years. But yeah, it's not particularly good. And honestly, it's kind of sad. Like, you got people selling all their... Like, the kid... I don't even hardly remember how this happens. Like, the kid... sells her horse so that she can afford to get a present for her dad. Meanwhile, her dad has got her like a new saddle for the horse she just sold. Like, it's actually a bit of a tearjerker, and it's kind of sad. But at the end of it, you know, they all remember the Christmas spirit and whatever. But it's a little strange. That's what we get into on Christmas Eve most years, is the Little House on the Prairie Christmas special. But yeah, no, it is getting closer and closer, man. It is that time of year. I get into it a bit, and it's good to see you're not just a one holiday guy. You can be festive about multiple occasions.
Yeah, like, let's not be kidding here. Like, Halloween's the king. Like, there's no competition between the two. But I need some time. You know, I need basically all of November to kind of get my, you know, my feelings and my sort back ready to move on past Halloween and into the Christmas season. And it was a little bit earlier than I thought this year. It was random. It'll be right around now where I get into it, being into it for about a week or so. And like I said, there's a bunch of movies you need to get into, the classics and whatnot. But
my dad also has always liked, it's from like, there's a couple different versions of it. I think the one he likes is from like 1952, and it's Christmas Carol, right? The Scrooge story.
Yeah.
And it used to freak us out as kids back in the day, because like, we'd go to bed on Christmas Eve and they'd stay up and they'd do some rapping and whatever else. But you'd wake up at 12:30 or 1 in the morning in our house, and he'd be watching it. And because it was from like the 50s and there's ghosts in it, like the sound is terrible. So you sort of hear these ghostly sounds coming down the hallway. It was like every Christmas Eve, you're getting freaked out a little bit.
That's so funny.
And then, yeah, we went a few years without it. And over the last couple of years, I went and found it on Apple and just bought it for my dad on, like my iPad or whatever else. And now you can just AirPlay it onto the TV. He doesn't have to wait till it comes on at like midnight or whatever. Still freak us out now that we're adults.
I was going to say, maybe he was doing that on purpose, trying to scare you a little bit on Christmas Eve. That's so funny.
Yeah, maybe keeping us up late would stop us from getting up early was the plan, but if it was, it didn't work. Let's have a beer, man. I know you've had quite a day. I'm certainly ready for one. What did you come to the table with there?
You know what? I just went classic today. I went with a nice cold Busch.
Yeah.
But it's not just any Busch. It's a limited edition camo can Busch. and it's been, I don't know, sitting in my fridge for weeks now, and it's just, I have like 2 left, and they've been just sitting in there, and I think I bought them like in October or November, and yeah, I just wanted to get rid of it, so I wasn't really sure if I was feeling a full craft beer today, so I was like, you know what, let's go with the camo, so I'm going with a nice ice-cold camo Busch. Not Busch Light, just a Busch.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you got going on?
I always feel like a full craft. So you and I are recording this on December 11th, which means it's day 11 of the Whippersnapper Advent Calendar.
Ooh.
Yeah, 12 days of Christmas Beermas. This one, suddenly second-guessing whether I needed a full craft today. 8% Imperial Stout. Which
Stout's out right up your alley.
I saw it was a stout, and I went for that. I hadn't quite noticed the 8% part until I took a closer look here. But this is called Straight to His Work. The theme of the Advent Calendar this year was "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." So each beer has a title from the poem or the story or whatever else. So this is Straight to His Work, 8% whiskey stout from Whippersnapper. Ooh. Yeah. It's, what is it, 12:45 in the afternoon? That's how I'm kicking off my my Wednesday afternoon here, my Thursday afternoon. Let's go.
Let's give her. And, while you're getting your first pull in, I definitely have to ask you, how has the calendar been going? Some good beers in there, some surprising beers, any bad beers, anything stand out so far?
There was another, just a couple days ago, it was sort of a cream ale, and it was a maple sugar cookie. That was outstanding. Kind of sweet for a beer, but I've always got time for that. So that was good. There was another one, and it's escaping me now. This is always the thing when you do these, is trying to keep straight what was when and what. But very early on in the calendar, there was another kind of sweet stout or porter that I enjoyed. The name of it's just escaping me right now. I always enjoy it, though. There's some variety to it. I
think that's the coolest part about that is finding different beers, but also just, just trying some different ones.
A little surprise, something to look forward to all day. So it's the spirit of Christmas, right? And they're all individually wrapped, so you get to open a little present every day. It's they do a nice job with it, man. Mm-hmm. I should tell the good listener, if you missed it yesterday, our buddy Andrew Stoughton from the batflip.ca was back on the show. Had a really good conversation with him as we sort of wrapped up the winter meetings in baseball. Talked a little about, the Orioles making a splash as they signed Pete Alonso. Rumors still persist that your guys there, the Red Sox, remain in the market for Bregman, maybe even Bo Bichette. They're looking
Ketel Marte too.
Ketel Marte, yeah. Like there's the arms race in the AL East continues, and Stoughton dove into that with us a little bit. We talked about some of the moves the Jays have already made, what might be left to do. And he's a soccer guy, a little more knowledgeable on that than I am. So we got his reaction to last Friday's FIFA World Cup draw and who Canada's going to line up there. So that's at talkanaudio.com right now, or on whatever app you're hearing us. Highly recommend you go back and check that one out. Stoughton's always a good chat. But man, there's a bunch of different things we can start with here. I want to ask you, though, it sure looks like we are staring down an NFL playoff with no Lamar, no Mahomes, no Joe Burrow. Like, there's some serious star power in serious jeopardy, if not already confirmed, to be missing the playoffs. Is this like just a disastrous year for some teams we thought that were going to be better? Or is this sort of a turning of the page moment that we see every now and then where, certain teams are on the rise and some of your old challengers fall away? Like, where are we at? Because, man, those are some names that draw ratings and all of a sudden it doesn't look like you're going to be around.
Yeah. I'll start with the AFC because it's crazy, but it is kind of, I wouldn't say like a turning of the leaf, but it just, other teams are getting better. Like, that's the problem. And you look at Kansas City, and you know what? I don't want to say fatigue's a factor, but I think it's maybe consistency is a factor. Like, when you've been so good for so long, every team brings their A game to Kansas City, right?
Sure.
You're playing Mahomes. That's the top dog, whether they're the best, they won the Super Bowl, whatever it is. I know the Eagles are the defending champs. Yep. Not trying to say anything. But you know what? He's the, best guy in the league. Like, he's the face of the NFL is Patrick Mahomes, right? So every team goes there, they play them. Lamar Jackson, same thing. watching him, he doesn't look as good this year. I know he's been injured for most of it, and the Ravens have kind of just been all over the map. I look at that situation as like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like it is what it is. The Ravens haven't had a good defense in a little while, so and they, their weapons have always been kind of up and down. I just look at it as teams like the Broncos, like Bo Nix taking a step forward. The New England Patriots, Drake May has shown up, and he's
Holy
like, hey,
crap,
like here I go. Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars look like they're finally starting to get over the hump. Same with the Chargers and Justin Herbert. They've been there in the playoffs for a little while now, but you know what? They're starting to get in there. The Bills are what they are. They're kind of up and down here and there, but you know what? They're consistent, so they're still getting in. The Texans are an iffy team, really good defense. They've been without C.J. Stroud for most of the year, but they're starting to pick up some good momentum. So look, I look at a lot of these teams just are so good. Eventually, you kind of got to just shift and figure things out differently, and some teams evolve, right? It's just how it goes. As weird as that sounds, some teams just get a lot better while other teams get older, and that's the thing too. You look at a guy like Travis Kelce; he hasn't been as good as he has been in the last couple of years because you know what? Maybe he's getting a little bit older, but he's also been contemplating retirement. Yep. He's got some girlfriend that's pretty big that everybody wants to talk about. Actually, my bad, Maddie, my bad, fiance, not girlfriend.
Oh, good point. Yep.
Yeah, but I just look at a lot of the NFL playoff teams, and especially in the AFC. Like I look at the Bengals. Like, look, Joe Burrow was out for most of the year. He just came back. He lost a close game to the Bills the other day. I really thought they were going to be able to put that game ahead and beat the Bills. Joe Burrow is one of my favorite players to watch in the league, but again, not healthy, and they haven't been very good. So it's going to take a lot for him to go on a run, especially with all these other teams in the AFC doing pretty good. As far as the NFC, like I look at this whole kind of division, and it is what it is. Like I'm a Bucs fan. I'm kind of pulling for the Bucs, but even Baker Mayfield, like, man, they're struggling right now. Like they can't play defense to save their lives. It's bad. Like losing to the Saints the other day was brutal. It ruined me. I was so mad. I hate one team in the dang sports world, and it's the goddamn Saints. I hate them. I hate the Saints. And them beating the Bucs when the Bucs are completely injured. They needed a big win. It's pouring rain. It's terrible conditions, and of course, the division rival, the friggin' 2-win Saints, move up to 3-10. I could not believe they got that win against us. But man, I look at a couple other teams, the Bears. Like they're starting to look pretty damn good right now. So I like seeing some new teams get up there, like the Rams. Matt Stafford, they've been good. They won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, but seeing a couple new teams, like again, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago. The battle between Detroit and Chicago is going to be good. Here come the Carolina Panthers. If the Bucs lose to the Atlanta Falcons, and then the Panthers and Bucs, it's going to come down to a pair of games against each other. This is going to be a very interesting kind of finish of the year in the NFL, just because there is so many teams kind of lumped together. There's no one that's just outright far and away the best team. Right. But man, those Rams look good, and sure enough, so do the Broncos and the Patriots right now. So you got about three teams that I think that are like, okay, the Broncos, I'm never going to be fully sold on it. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I hate Sean Payton from his days with the Saints. But their defense is absolutely good, and the Patriots are a team that, man, they got so much cap space. They went out and bought a bunch of good players, and on top of that, here comes Drake May. And Drake May, who are you throwing to? I don't know. I don't know any of these players, but hey, you're still winning. Like that's what's so cool about the season is there's a lot of teams that are just winning right now and finding ways to win games. I think it makes the NFL look good, but I think it also just makes these next few weeks in the NFL so much better. It's so good for the NFL to be like this and not have teams kind of running away with it. So I like a lot of teams, but I also just think right now I'm so excited to just sit back and watch football other than the Bucs because it stresses me the fuck out. But man, yeah, it's been cool. It's been really cool to see a lot of these good teams that we're used to seeing kind of just face a little bit of adversity.
Well, I think that's a big part of it, right? Like for the longest time, especially here in the nation's capital, all the talk was the Sens, the Red Wings, and the Sabres were supposed to take a step forward, right? Obviously, the Sabres didn't do it. Montreal jumped up out of nowhere and did. The Sens took a step last year, had taken a couple steps over the last couple of years and finally made the playoffs last year. And the Red Wings, the year before that, were eliminated on the last day by 1 point on a ridiculous empty net goal by somebody else. I don't remember whether it was the Flyers or what was going on there. But the conversation always was, okay, if the Sens or the Red Wings or whoever, if you're getting in, who's coming out? Because at the top of the Atlantic for a long time, in whatever order, it had always been Toronto, Tampa, Florida, and Boston. And the conversation was, yeah, like, it's great. All these young teams who have rebuilt are ready to take that step and get in, but you always have to, well, who's coming out? And it took a while for any of that to happen. And maybe this year we're seeing it. I'm not sold on that because it's so clumped together. It's such a mess. We've seen recently Detroit lead the division, Tampa lead the division. Like Ottawa the other night was in second, lost a game and fell to 15th. And you're just like, this is so stupid, right? Like, or 13th, whatever it would have been. I wonder if that's sort of what's happening now in the NFL. You've mentioned a bunch of teams like the Broncos, like the Bears, that, yeah, if those guys are getting in, if they're taking this step forward, someone's got to come out. And maybe it is a couple of these teams, specifically like the Chiefs, who have been on long runs, and maybe the injuries catch up to you, and maybe you do get older a little bit, and slowly guys leave to get paid more somewhere else. I don't know. To me, it does look a little like a turning of the page. It could just be a weird year and that these sorts of things happen now and then. But it does sort of feel like we may be entering a bit of a tipping point where some of these teams that you just mentioned that are on the upswing are going to reach that point where they can push out some of the long-standing, big boys in the league. I didn't see it yet for Baltimore. I'm surprised by Baltimore. Kansas City, you can kind of go, yeah, I can see why it would start to catch up with them and all the football they've played and how long this has been going. I didn't see this coming for the Ravens. It seems like you're not as surprised as I am, though.
And I just think it's again another tough spot for them to be in. When I look at the Baltimore Ravens, I look at a team that, again, Lamar Jackson was injured for quite a few games this year. So that's a big factor in it, right?
Sure, it is. Anybody's going to go down when they lose their quarterback. That's tough going, right?
And then you look at that division, the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers, at one point they were running away with the division.
Yeah.
And look, the kind of scary thing here is that Baltimore is still right there with the Steelers. That's the thing. But I haven't been as sold on them just because they've lost some just weird games and they have.
And I'm not writing all these teams off, but we are in a place where we could see all these teams miss the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. And they play against the Bengals this week. If they don't beat the Bengals, that's a big problem. Now here come the Bengals. They have the door open. They play the Bengals, I think the Patriots, the Packers, and the Steelers to finish off the year.
Yeah.
So the Ravens, those are all serious teams that are also fighting for playoff lives. Look, the Bengals aren't dead yet, but I don't know if they have enough to win it. But that's a tough division where expectations are always very high, just because you got the Steelers, the Bengals, the Joe Burrow, and the Baltimore Ravens. There's three teams. Okay, you got the Browns there, but they're always going to be the Browns. That is the funny part about all this is, yes, some teams are getting better, but the Browns and the Jets are always going to be the Browns and the Jets. And you know what? They're easy to laugh at, but, the Tennessee Titans also not having a great year.
No.
The New Orleans Saints, I'm okay with laughing at because, you know what? For so many years, they just kicked the damn crap out of the Bucs, and I hate them. So I look at that, but when it comes to the Ravens, the injuries to Lamar and just that defense hasn't been very good. I think that's the problem. And you bring up even the NHL and teams get better across the league and everything being so tight. I look at a lot of that too, though. It's just, teams win and then players go elsewhere. So when you look at the Chiefs, they get paid, they cash in on deals that they probably get overpaid for because they're on Super Bowl championship teams, and then teams go by. But the thing is, when your teams can officially develop and draft. I look at again the Patriots. You go back a couple of years ago, man, they were terrible. You go back now and it's okay, they drafted Drake May and they had cap space. They went out and they filled out that defensive line. Guys just bringing in Milton Williams, guys that are out there just showing up on defense, Carlton Davis, guys that have Super Bowl pedigree teams from the Eagles, the Bucs, all these teams. They load up on these teams with cap space, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got a rookie quarterback that's playing lights out with no real receivers, but also a great defense that's been built up, and it looks like a decent coaching staff with Mike Vrabel, who's kind of always had success in Tennessee up until his last kind of end of the run, but being back in a familiar spot, he knows what goes on in New England, he knows how to get these guys to win, he was a part of big championship teams. I look at that. Same thing in Denver. You go back, you look at Sean Payton, hate the guy, don't want to give him credit, but he deserves it because he showed up there, he had Bo Nix, he had Russell Wilson, he said, you know what, I don't want Russell Wilson, give me Bo Nix. He got in there, got himself a quarterback, built himself a defense, boom, he's got a rookie quarterback that's playing really good, a quarterback that's on a rookie deal, which is what you can do in the NFL. You win with rookie quarterback deals. If you don't like, again, it happens, but you look at the last couple Super Bowls, and Jalen Hurts is a guy that shows up when it matters. Well, the Eagles are kind of all up in round right now. Who really knows what's going on with them? They're kind of in turmoil, but then again, you have the Cowboys, and you know what? You can't really trust them either. So it's kind of a whole situation. But the Eagles have always had that ability to show up and win games when they matter.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's the difference between a lot of these teams. A lot of them can bail out. So that's where we're going to see in the playoffs. How does Drake May stand up in the playoffs, right?
Well, down the stretch here, like you just mentioned, and into the playoffs, like you think
playoff ball.
This is it. And you've said, like, it's going to be great football because of, like, do you think this hurts? And look, the NFL is king, right? When the NFL playoffs roll around, everybody's watching. Certainly when the Super Bowl rolls around, everyone's watching. It doesn't matter who's in the game when we get to that point. But down the stretch here, do you think this will hurt ratings or interest, the fact that some of these big names are maybe going to be a non-factor? Or could it go the other way, that people are excited about the fresh faces? Like, you're a hardcore. It sounds like you're excited to see these guys fight for their lives and some fresh faces, whatever. But if we get to the playoffs and there is no Mahomes and there is no Lamar and there is no Burrow, like, do you think that hurts, or is it make it exciting, make it more fun that there's new teams involved?
The thing it does is, it's a combination of both, right? You don't want to have teams that don't have the big fan bases and draws that are going to make it. Like, again, if you had yourself like a Vegas Raiders, in somehow in the Super Bowl, and I'm trying to think of against like the Arizona Cardinals, like
right.
That's a Super Bowl where I'm like, okay, the Raiders, there was more of an Oakland, but then it was a Baltimore. Like, there was a whole lot there, but there's no real tie and fan base to it. And, the Arizona Cardinals are a very bland team, so it's kind of like, But a lot of these teams I look at is, people get sick of the New England Patriots because of the Tom Brady era, but now they're kind of back. So it's like, okay, all those Patriots fans that have been kind of grumpy either went and kind of cheered for the Bucs when Tom Brady went to the Bucs because they love Tom and that's their guy. And a lot of people are also like, I'm sick of the Patriots, give me someone else. Well, the Chiefs are just like, yo, we're here.
We'll be the new Patriots.
Like, so they've been there kind of, it's a shift.
And they were unique because of the Tay-Tay thing, right? Like, you got a lot of women and casual fans watching because they were hearing about Travis Kelce. And, like, that's going to come off however it's going to come off, but I can speak to it for real. Like, my niece is texting me when the Chiefs are playing in the playoffs asking for my TSN login, right? She wants to watch because...
That's hilarious.
Because she knows about Travis Kelce. That was a thing that happened for a couple of years. That wouldn't have otherwise been a thing. Just the celebrity connection was big, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing is, having new teams in it is good for people to just like get sick of it, but it's also at the same time, it's you want to like the greatness aspect is something like look, when Tom Brady was with the Patriots, like, I hated him because he wasn't a Buck. But when he became a Buck and won me a Super Bowl, he's now my God, right? Like, that's the thing.
Man, of course.
There's a different aspect, but there was always the respect factor and the ability, and you'd hear the argument. It's like, how can you be so upset watching greatness happen?
Right.
Right? Like, Tom Brady has more playoff wins than any other NFL team.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy to see that.
And you know
kind of
what?
stuff.
Leagues are healthy when there's a villain. Like, when there's someone for your team. I hope it's my team that goes and knocks that guy off. But if it's not, like, I'll be... Well, no different often than the Leafs. Now, the Leafs are not the Patriots. Let's not get that twisted, right? But people love to hate the Leafs. And if your team isn't in the playoffs and the Leafs are playing whoever, Tampa or Boston or last year Ottawa or whatever, all of a sudden people are cheering for those teams because I just want to see those guys get knocked off. And that's good for any... Same with the Yankees, right? Same with any number of teams across sports. And the Patriots became that. Like, the Super Bowl was interesting for people who didn't like the Patriots because I want to see somebody beat the Patriots. And so this year I'm a Giants fan, or I'm a Seahawks fan, or I'm a whatever. Whoever's going to get a shot at knocking off Brady. And I think leagues are healthy when there's a villain and someone to cheer against.
Yeah, and I think the one good thing, though, we're seeing, though, is a lot of these traditional teams, like, again, the Bears being good, that's good for football.
Yes,
like, having them in these tight games coming down the stretch of the NFL, this is huge. This is going to be great. It's going to be great ratings because these games matter. Like, look at the Bengals. Like, they're technically out of it, but they're not. Like, it's crazy to see a team that has 4 wins still kind of lingering because the Ravens, you know what, again, if there's a big game this weekend, but between the Ravens and the Steelers, like, no one's really running away with that division, but the Bengals are somewhat still alive. alive. If they can get a win and turn things around, like that's huge. But the Broncos, again, a team that has a big fan base, you know,
big
going
history,
back to the 90s.
Yes.
There's a history.
Well, you're so
there.
right, man. The Celtics, the Knicks, like when the Leafs, the Habs, the whatever it might be, whether you love them or hate them, leagues are the Rangers. The Yankees and Red Sox, like love them or hate them, and I get why people hate them, and I'm amongst them for everything but the Leafs. But yeah, it's good when your big markets are there to either serve as the villain or to draw ratings or whatever else. And the Chicago Bears have been shit for so long that is a big market for the NFL. And if that's waking up and if that's reemerging and they're going to be good here for a while, and we'll see how this plays out, but that's huge for the NFL to get the Bears back on the radar.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with kind of like the Broncos, right? Sure, you're going to have your teams in there. Like, look, the Jags in the AFC. Like, that's a team where it's like, is anybody really rooting for the Jags? Like, our boy Creature, he's a Jags fan,
he is.
but like he'll admit it. Like, he's a newer Jags fan, the last 10 years or so. But he was more of a Michigan fan, but he needed a team. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. But Jags are a team that's like, okay, does anybody really care?
Sure,
they're kind of just they're just
they just exist.
Team.
Yes.
Same with the LA Chargers, right? That's a team like again the Chargers have kind of flipped around all through. Like it's a team with a good team, and it would be cool to see them get to the Super Bowl. Like, look, I'm a Bucs fan. Everybody that talks to me says, "How are you a Bucs fan? Who likes the Bucs?" Like, you know what I mean? But because they had 2 Super Bowls in my era of watching, it's always kind of been like easy for me to root for them. So it is nice to see some of these kind of teams that show up, and it'll be different. But again, when, like you said, we got teams like the Broncos that are reemerging themselves back in the picture since like Peyton Manning and their last Super Bowl win, that's always good. The Bears, again, they've been up and down the last few years, but mainly down. So for them to have a quarterback and a coach where it looks like Ben Johnson really has that team motivated, that's good. Same with when the Detroit Lions, they have a big fan base that is big. Now that they're good again, it's like the NFL is better. Now they need to finally win. These teams need to finally win. But I look at the LA Rams as a perfect example of a team with a guy like Matt Stafford, who when he went there and won a Super Bowl, there was no real ties to LA, right? The LA Rams weren't the LA Rams. They were the St. Louis Rams for so many years. They went to LA and it was like, okay, yeah, they're back in LA now, I guess. And it's kind of like, okay, cool. Like these guys are now like kind of very good. They won their Super Bowl and now they're slowly kind of building up. Like the LA markets are building back their fan bases, and that's the thing. But when you got teams like Seattle looking good and San Francisco still lingering around, and the Bears, like some real classic teams like the Cowboys.
If the Cowboys could ever get back into it, right? Like
that's exactly it. The Vikings too. Like they're another team with a big traditional fan base. You know, we laugh about them, but the Browns, the New York Giants are another one too. Like they're a team that has a big fan base because of those early years when winning Super Bowls are huge. So there's so many big fan bases in the NFL. Like you said, NFL is king. And I think there's you can go to so many different teams that I think when they start winning, it's like, okay, it's a little bit better for the NFL. It's not that thing that when some of these juggernauts start losing and it's bad, they have a bad down year. It's like, it's not going to ruin the NFL. But again, it's just kind of how it goes. Everybody kind of passes the torch on to somebody else at one point, and it's, I think, good for the NFL to see some teams are drafting well, rebuilding well, and they're able to compete in the next couple of years, because so often you look at teams like the Jets that can't seem to be able to figure out a quarterback, B, a coach, C, half the roster. Like there's so much that goes on. So, it's nice to see new teams. So that way we don't have to see all the same guys all the time.
So let's move over to this NHL Atlantic Division that you and I have hinted at here a couple of times. And right now, well, I should reiterate for the good listener, you and I are speaking on Thursday afternoon. So the Sens, I believe, are in action tonight. By the time most people hear this, they will know how that game has played out. But there's been a bit of a slide since Brady returned. And this happens a little bit from time to time. And I don't think it's ever a conscious thing. But there's a lot of players that are sort of like, okay, that guy's back and he'll take care of the thing that I have been putting so much pressure on myself to take care of. And I don't think anyone ever actually says to themselves getting ready for the game, okay, Brady's back, I'll take it. I won't work as hard tonight or what. I don't think that happens, but I do think there is some human nature in this idea that, okay, our big dog is back. There's a little less pressure on me. I can let my foot off the gas a little bit. And it just all happens a bit subconsciously. As you're sort of, you and I are here in the market, fans are getting a little frustrated. It's tough because the Sens are by no means out of it, right? The division is still so jammed up and so tight that 2 wins in a row and you're right back in a playoff spot. It's no more than 2 weeks ago we were talking about the Senators as the only Canadian team in a playoff spot. So they're not in trouble yet, but it hasn't been a great week or week and a half. I'm sort of curious, do you think that does coincide with a return of Brady and some guys taking their foot off the gas, or is there something more to it than that for you?
Yeah, I don't know how to put my finger on it because it's a weird situation. But, as a Leaf fan, like, tell me the record when, like, Austin Matthews is out of the lineup. Like, you brought it up. Like, it's weird, right?
Yeah,
how sometimes
they're very good without him for some reason. Guys,
I don't know.
Get to work, right?
Exactly. I never know what it is because when you talk to anybody, Brady Tkachuk is like a unicorn in the NHL, right?
Yes.
He is the ultimate captain that can score goals, play hard to get. He's big, he's tough, he's mean, but he's also got some skill and he's able to put goals in the net. Like, he is a one-of-one kind of guy. You would never think that a team would have a losing record with him in the lineup. Like, it kind of doesn't make any sense. So I don't want to say that when he comes back, it's tough because everyone talks about how he drags everybody into the fight. He fires up the team. He gets everybody going. And I don't want to say like it's because he can't fight because of his wrist or whatever it is, but like I feel like he's a guy that if you gave him a game where he just absolutely wrecks a guy in the open ice, or he does get into a fight, or he has himself a 2-goal game, and just has that electric moment where he has a big hit, gets everybody going. It feels like it sparks the team. It gets everybody going. Now, him coming back from the injury and things are a bit different. Again, it's just such a weird vibe. The Sens have had a weird vibe around them all year because they did play pretty good on that road trip at one point, but then kind of dropped the ending of it. Then they come home for 3 games and drop all those games.
Yeah.
So it's like, what the heck is going on here? And now it's like, okay, back on the road, and Thomas Chabot's hurt, and they're not really sure how long it's going to be. And
that's a massive hole, right? Like, that is tough to fill. Yeah,
but at the same time, it's tough when the Sens were a playoff team last year. They've, you know what I mean? Now it's like they're taking a step back. The one thing I'm going to say is, and it's a kind of a cop-out, but it is, the Sens aren't out of it, and they're not even close to being out of it. They're 6 points behind the Bruins for, the last place in the Atlantic spot. They've only played a couple games. They're right there, 29 games. They have 2 games in hand on a team like Boston. Yep. That's 4 points if they can win both of them. They're not far out of it.
No.
And they're a run away from like a Linus Ullmark just standing on his head for a week. A Shane Pinto being out is tough for them. But like somebody like a Ridley Grigg who hasn't had a very good season, but had started off really well, and it's kind of just been like, he might not have the production you want. It feels like one kind of thing away from being able to turn the corner.
Isn't the biggest thing Stützle? Because he hasn't looked great lately, right? And the Sens are no different than any other team. If your big boys aren't going, you're not going. And look, I think having Chabot out and Pinto out, those are massive holes. And when that happens, you need your guy, the guy, to go. And he's not really going. I don't think he's been terrible or anything like that, but he has not stepped up to sort of. Look, he can't fill the void of a Thomas Chabot or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? You have to elevate. You have to be better, and you do have to make up a little bit for the loss of Pinto and pick up the offense that way a little. And he hasn't been able to do it yet. Doesn't mean he won't, but they're sort of skidding right now, and to me, it's just kind of if he's not going to go, they can't go very far, and that's no different than any other team. If your number one center isn't pulling you along, you're not going far, man. And I assume he's going to get it going again, but it's a question of how long this takes, right? And everybody struggles, but he's struggling at a bad time.
It's true. And you know what? The Sabres are the Sabres, and I don't think anyone's going to be as bad as them.
No.
They're kind of sitting down there, and they're kind of like, you know what? Everybody kind of like knows that they're probably going to be right where they are. It's going to take a lot for them to get going. Yeah. I look at the Sens, I look at the Leafs, I look at the Panthers, and I look at the Rangers, and I look at those teams, and I say, these teams are a lot better than their records. I don't know where they are and how they're going to be, but I can see them taking that next step. You know who I look at?
The Panthers, right? They're about to get Matthew Tkachuk back, and at some point they will get Sasha Barkov. Like, if you're going to give any team a bit of a nod or a bit of an understanding as to why it's happening, you're going, man, the Panthers have been to the final 3 years in a row, and they are without 2/3 of their top line. Yeah, I can see why they're struggling, and when those pieces get back, I assume they're going to be fine. Those other three you mentioned, I agree with you, should be better, but I'm less convinced that they will be fine. Right?
Yeah, and I look at teams like Detroit and Boston, and I'm like, okay, like those are teams where we're not used to seeing them be as this good in the last couple of seasons, right?
Yeah.
So now it's like, again, taking a random step, but are they this good? Are they like, again, if there's a team I'm betting on that might not be as good as the record says, it's probably the Boston Bruins.
Okay,
right?
see, for me it's Detroit, but either way, yeah, there's two guys there ripe for the picking.
It's a 1A, 1B situation in my sense.
100%.
Like Tampa as well. But again, when you have a guy like Vasilevsky, but he hasn't been as great, and Hedman, they have some depth there.
They've been beat up, right? They just got Kucherov and Point back, and Hedman's been beat up. But yeah, no, you're right.
So like they're a team where
I believe Tampa more than those other two we just mentioned, though.
Yeah, exactly. So I look, and they've got John Cooper, right? They got that pedigree of winning in the last couple seasons. Where I'm not going to ever count them out until they're officially out. Same with the Bruins, I guess, in that sense. But at the same time, I just don't love the Bruins roster enough to be like, okay, like Connor Geekie, sure, what the heck's going on, man?
Morgan Geekie suddenly fucking Rocket Richard contender. What is happening right now?
Yeah, seriously.
Are you willing to put money down that that's going to continue? Because I'm not, right?
So I look at it as like, I think, it's tough and unfortunate the Sens are on the slide, and it just so happens. I'm saying like it's a mixed bag of reasons, but I think that I look at the Sens team and I think they do have the character of, and they do have some good leadership there. Yeah. Travis Green, what he needs to do to get that kind of team out of a slump. Again, I always look at these teams, and hockey is so easy to the camaraderie aspect of it, of all of a sudden something can change. You could have a game where you light up a team and you just ride that momentum and you go on a bit of a run or a bit of a stretch, and you know what, you could put yourself right back in a spot. So, I look at a lot of those teams, and if anything, like I look at the Leafs as a team, like, okay, like, yeah, they should be in the playoffs, but really they have not been playing good at all. Like, no. And
the Leafs, in any other year, by all rights, the Leafs should be dead and buried right now with how poorly they played, but nobody ran away with it. The rest of the division just stayed marred in the muck, and like it's look, Toronto's played better, whatever. Again, they're playing on Thursday night, so by the time the good listener hears this, we don't know whether they won or lost to San Jose, but they haven't on their own done enough to deserve to be as close as they are to the playoffs. That is a fact. That is a consequence of what the rest of the division has done to just nobody get going, no one run away with it. There is no separation between sort of the mediocre and the good, and maybe there just isn't any good teams in the division. But the fact that the Leafs are here right now is a credit to them that they have gotten going a little bit, but by all rights, it shouldn't have mattered. Like, they should be dead. Other teams should have walked away with this, and nobody has yet. So I don't know how long that continues. At the 30-game mark, at the 50-game mark, like, does somebody figure it out? And do we start to see that separation, whoever it might be, like we've seen in previous years? Or is it going to be like this all year, and it's just kind of whoever's hot in early April and wins 3 or 4 in a row is going to get in? And I don't know, man. Like, it's such a strange year.
It's cool like that because usually we're used to saying, okay, by American Thanksgiving, whoever's in the playoffs are usually going to make the playoffs. And that was the only one Canadian team was the Ottawa Senators.
Yep.
Now, then you hear too, like December 1st or whatever, and then times move around if you're not in the playoffs by a certain time. But then you go back to the year the St. Louis Blues won, and that's a kind of a crazy stretch.
An outlier,
but again, yeah, I look at the way the standings are right now, and like you said, even especially the Leafs are a team where they somehow have more points than they probably should.
Yep.
A lot of that I think is like Joseph Wall has stolen a couple games. Dennis Hildeby,
suddenly,
suddenly
a thing, suddenly a guy.
The Leafs seem to have this goaltender of
let's zoom out on that, man. Like, if you had said to any Leaf fan that, look, they're going to struggle out of the gate, but the guys who will save their season will be Troy Stecher, Dennis Hildeby, and Scott Lawton. And yet that's what's happened over the last week and a half, 10 days. It's picking up Stecher off waivers. It's having your other two goalies get run right into the ground, and you're left with Hildeby, and Scott Lawton comes back from injury. Your fourth-line center is suddenly scoring big goals for you. Everything about this year is so wild. But the fact that those three guys are the ones who have pulled the Leafs back from the brink of oblivion is just insane, man.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I go back to last year for the Leafs especially, and a lot of their waiver wire trade deadline, kind of right before the trade deadline deals. I liked the Scott Laughton pickup. I thought that was such a perfect pickup for them as a guy to play in your fourth line role player.
I like the player. The price was too high.
Yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, when you need a player like that with term, I'm not surprised about the price. Like it was it was. And for him to start the year injured was tough.
Yeah.
But it shows. Yeah, this guy's role. I look at other deals and things that they have when they filled out their roster, when they kind of let Marner go away, and it's like, okay, like Roy, not really that great. Dakota Joshua. Okay, not really that. Like I look at a lot of things here, and like you said, the Troy Stretcher claim is so hilarious. He's been just kind of, hanging around. I think he was with Arizona for a while.
Yep.
And he was
Vancouver,
just kind of
Detroit. Yeah. He's been all over the damn place, man.
Yeah, Edmonton. He's kind of just been lingering, packing his bags, but he kind of put himself in a spot where he earned himself an NHL contract, and it's like, oh, good for him. And you know what? To see him being a reason why they've been okay lately, it was like, okay, this probably isn't going to last.
No.
But the Leafs D is just so beat up right now.
They were so desperate for anyone who could come in and move the puck on the back end.
Well, that was just it, right? Move the puck was
that's
huge.
What he does, right, is he can get it up to your forwards a little bit. And maybe it's no more complicated than that when trying to figure out why they've come to life a little bit. It's more, the defense hadn't been good, and he's not a superstar by any means, but he is a guy who can put the puck on the stick of your forwards. And now all of a sudden, maybe Max Domi has a chance to make a play to Matthews, or maybe you can get Willie going through the neutral zone or whatever else. You just had all these guys back there who couldn't make a breakout pass to save their life, and now the forwards are trying to grab it off their chest after it's banked off the glass or it's been rimmed out or whatever else. This is just a guy who can make a pretty simple 8-foot pass breaking out of the zone. And now your forwards at least have a chance. And the Leafs have looked much better here over the last week or two. Let's not go crazy. A lot of that has been on the back of much more reliable goaltending from Joseph Woll and Dennis Hildeby. But yeah, the fact that Troy Stetcher is, been a difference maker is a serious condemnation of how poor the D had been before he got here.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's something we expected or you expected or maybe other Leaf fans expected, but, them losing Marner was clearly going to be an issue because they never really replaced them. And we got fed a lot of garbage about how, hey, the Leafs are going to be better because we have now spread the wealth out and we have more depth now. It's like, well, you don't have depth when you have guys that are constantly just doing nothing. And then you think and you look at the stats, and they're for a team that is outside of a playoff spot, they have 97 goals for, which is like third, I believe, in the Atlantic.
Yep.
So it's like it's pretty much right there. Like they're a top team in the Atlantic in terms of even
top 10
even goals
in the
against.
league in goals for. They're doing like it's just the penalty kill since Laughton has been back and whatever else has been outstanding. And the 5-on-5 play now that their forwards are healthy. Like, they had already put themselves in a bad position before all these injuries mounted, but then those injuries are what really sewered you, right? Like, you couldn't pull the nose up at that point. But since the forwards have gotten healthy, the PK looks good. The 5-on-5 looks good. The goaltending looks good. It's the power play that's still just abysmal. Like, just awful. Like, they have no idea what they're doing. So we'll see if they can figure that out here as we go.
The Leafs are a team, I think, are a big move away from something to happening. It's either they stay pat and they get rid of somebody, or they make a big move to bring somebody in and try and push them a bit over the hump. And I don't know where they're going to go, but I look at a spot where they stink of a team of desperation, and I don't like it in that aspect.
No.
The way I see the Ottawa Senators, they have the ability to dig themselves out of the hole they're in with the team they have. They make a move, I think it would be more of a minor move.
Well, I wanted to ask you one more on the Sens. We sort of drifted into the Leafs, but we do that because
we kind of go back and forth. Because
let me ask you, what do you make of Ridley Gregg? Because you pointed out correctly, he has not had a great year. I think there was a lot of hype around him. I don't mean that to sound the way that it clearly just sounded, like it was unwelcomed or unfair or whatever else, overstated. None of that. He was, again, not like a Brady Tkachuk, but a different type of player who had a little skill, maybe could play some center for you, could certainly play some wing for you, was a pest, like all of these things that were going to make him special. And he has struggled lately, and not just this year. He's had some bad moments. At this point, like, what do we think the upside is for a Ridly Greig? Can he, especially now while Pinto's down, they need somebody to step in and play some center. Do you trust him in that spot? Is he more of like a third-line winger? Where are we at on Ridly Greig at this point?
See, and that's the thing. I think the team needs to figure out exactly what they want to do with him, but see how they can get him going. Mm-hmm. And I think the problem with that is he's in a spot where I think, everybody looks at him as like, okay, well, he's there, but he plays a certain way, right? And I think that they've been missing that way he plays, where you kind of be that rat. He's not a rat, but he's a guy that can have some skill. He's got some grit. Yeah. He's got some fire, and he can,
Sens fans love when I use Leaf comparisons, but a Darcy Tucker type, right? Guy can score 20, 25 goals. He can irritate the piss out of you. He can play physical.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with him is where is he going to be the most comfortable? Like, I think they need to make a decision whether it's center, if it's a wing, where do they want to put him, and where can they put him where he can get going? Yeah. And I think that's the big thing. Is it going to be moving to center? Well, try it. Let's see. Maybe it does work out. Put him, you want to put him up the lineup a bit just to try and get him going a bit more, then do it. I think that's a spot where, you need like you said, your depth and your younger guys to kind of just get moving. And he's especially one of them. And I think if you can get that going, then that'll help them a lot. I also look at the way he plays, and I think he's the kind of guy, too, that knows, look, I know Brady's already been back for a few games, but it's like, look, he needs to be able to just play his way, and I think that's just something he has not been able to do.
That's what I'm worried about a little right now, Bunda, is that right now they have asked him a little bit to sort of fill in for Pinto, and that's not him. Like, instead of trying to figure out what can we do for you and find you a good spot in the lineup, it's been more I can't worry about you right now. I need you to do this because we're down this guy. And look, that's part of being a team. That's going to happen from time to time. But I don't think the timing of this situation has been good for him. Like, I think it's been a struggle, and they should be looking to put him in situations to get him going and get his confidence up. And instead, it's more like, yeah, we need you to do this right now because we're in a bad way. And, that can snowball on a guy a little bit if it goes poorly.
Yeah, and I think, too, we're in that spot where it's kind of
like I just let Lars Eller play 3C. I know that's not ideal, but that's what I would do to ride this out for the moment, I think.
Yeah, I also look at, too, being in a spot in the season where I don't want to call it the dog days of hockey, right? You get that extra juice at the beginning of the year because you know what, you're starting things out, and then you kind of wind up a bit. You get into a couple road trips, and it's like, okay, things settle down quite a bit. And then I look at a guy like him, and he's young, and look, like you said, the hype around him, I think, is more of the first round draft pick and agitator, kind of fun guy, easy to cheer for. You look at this roster, you know what, they got some guys that can have some skill, but also have that extra edge to them that 100%. You really covet and you want on your team.
Your Perrons, Gregg, certainly.
You always look at, the saying, whether it be Brady, I love Brady Tkachuk on my team, otherwise I hate him, right?
Of course.
You don't want to play against those guys. Like, that's a guy like I look like Ridly Greig, but I also look back at his last couple of years, he's never had more than 13 goals. He's played, a couple 70-game seasons the last 2 years.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I need more out of him. I think there's 20 goals in there, and right now they're not putting him in a position to do that. And sometimes circumstances dictate that's what you have to do. But man, I think the timing of the Pinto thing hurts Ridly Greig maybe more than anybody else on the outside of Shane Pinto, obviously.
Yeah. But, and I think too, though, maybe he is just this guy. Like, he is a 15 to 20 score, 20 kind of guy. Be, 30 to 40, and he's just that different guy, and he's a bottom of the lineup guy that can score. And maybe he isn't the first round pick with the extra hype that everybody like. You eventually learn.
That doesn't mean you're not useful. It just means you're not going to quite get where we were hoping you would.
Exactly, and it's no knock on anything. It just eventually people fill out and they play, and hey, maybe he's a couple seasons away from being that guy that can be the 20 to 25 goal scorer and a 40 to 50 point guy. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe that's more of his role, but right now he's just not there yet, and it's learning, it's being around the guys and being getting used to the NHL. So I think not to worry about him, but I absolutely would try and get him going in a sense of like, look, we need to get guys like Tim Stützle going. We need to get guys like Ridly Greig and Brady Tkachuk need to be those guys that kind of get guys going, right? Like, and it gets themselves going. Like, again, I think Brady Tkachuk is a guy like, you get him a 2-goal game, it's the celebration, it's the fire he brings, it's everything about that. It's pissing off the defense in front of the net. It's the
Looking at the bench,
aspects.
who wants it, right? Like all these things.
Yeah, it's the hit, it's the fight, it's that extra little thing that can get the guys going, and then next thing you know, they go on a bit of a bit of a run through a game.
Yeah,
and
we're
next
feeling
thing you know,
it now.
Yeah, it's a couple games. So it's small things like that I'm not shook about, but I look at and I say, really, Greg, look, who is he? What is he? Is he just this guy? No, he's probably a bit better, but where is he? Is he a 15 to 20 or is he a 20 to 25 guy? Mm-hmm. And I think right now, where the Sens are at, again, they're in a tough spot, but I'm not worried about it yet. They're eventually going to kind of dig themselves out of it.
And they'll get healthy, and they're better than this.
I think Tim Stützle, too, he'll get through it, too. Like, again, I think once you get through the Olympic break kind of thing.
It's just the timing. Like, to have him not going while Pinto's out, you can't have both those things. For disaster, it's not good, right? So I did want to ask you about a couple things on the UFC, but before we do, how close of attention are you paying to this Olympic story with the rink? And I'm not concerned about the size of it, although I think it's ridiculous that that's happened. But there does seem to be some talk about the quality of the ice. And I've referenced this before on the show, Bunda, the idea that when we did the bubble, right, during COVID, and the West was in Edmonton and the East was in Toronto, these are NHL cities with long-standing traditions of knowing how to run NHL games. And you put 3 NHL games a day on that ice, and it was hard, and it was a challenge. And you saw you saw those rinks have bad ice by the end of it. And now we're in a place where, like I said, the size of the ice, it's stupid, but I'm not all that worried about it. But the talk seems to be the quality of the ice. They haven't even put the refrigeration system in yet, which means you can't put the boards in yet, which means you can't start to get the ice right. The women's tournament starts on February 5th. The men are right after that. And in the first 30 hours of the men's tournament, there will be 5 games on that sheet. Big boys, playing on the men's side of it. And it's not to say the women's hockey, is any less important. It obviously isn't, but the bodies are a little less heavy, right? There's a little less toll on the ice. But they will be the first ones out there. And then the men are going to run 5 games in 30 hours when they arrive. I do think there's a possibility here that the ice is shit, and I don't know what the NHL and the PA's tolerance will be for how bad it is. Like, I think a lot of the talk has been, hey, if it's not finished, will they even go, or will they just call it off? My concern is more like you get there, you play 3 or 5 games, the ice is just awful, guys are falling all over the place, and they pull up stakes then and say, yeah, we're not continuing here. We're not playing on this. This is going to be bad. I don't know that the size of the rink is going to matter. I do think there is reason to be concerned about the quality of the ice.
Yeah. My first thoughts is, what the hell are they doing?
Honest to God,
I don't understand how the Olympics, like, we're not talking about some low-level kind of bottom tier kind of league.
Whatever, yeah.
We are talking about the biggest event in the world that has known about this for a couple of weeks. No, 4 years, at least 4 years.
More than that, yeah.
Yeah, like way more than that. But it's like, we'll give them 4 years. How are they not figuring this stuff out? It's just mind-boggling to me that, and I think the scarier part about this is the fact that it's finally the NHL players going back. Everybody's excited. The Four Nations face-off was awesome.
Yes,
right?
It was.
That built up the rivalry between Americans, the Canadians, and the Swedes, the Finns. Everybody was there, and it's like, oh man, we miss Olympic hockey. We miss best on best. And look, that was more of an all-star thing, but it had that feel between the Canadians and the Americans.
The intensity ramped up on that in a way nobody expected. By the end of it, that was full bore. It was awesome.
But it's because we missed that Olympic hockey. We missed that best on best kind of hockey.
Yeah.
And now we get around the corner. It's like, oh yeah, February. Okay, this is awesome. Now, next year, this time, we're going to be talking about the Olympics. And it's like, oh yeah, but you know what? The rink is shit. We haven't even got the pipe. What are we doing? We knew about this stuff a year ago. Yeah. Like, how are we still this far away? It makes zero sense to me. look, am I worried? I don't really know. Like I said, I haven't been paying attention too much to it, just the headlines and hearing people talk about it and seeing this kind of stuff. But I just think, like, what are we doing? And is it going to affect the NHLPA? Are they going to bail? Are they going to pull the players? That would be the ultimate gut punch to so many of those guys.
Yeah.
And on top of that, just on top of the fans, people excited, like it would be so much. But the biggest problem is going to be is if this does happen, and then there's a couple of bad injuries. Oh my goodness, we'll never see an NHL
Islanders
player.
Were furious in 2014 when John Tavares blew his knee out, cost him the rest of the year, right? Like,
yeah,
and that wasn't an
Sens.
ice issue. That was
100%. Too.
Dominic Hasek right there. They really felt like with him in 2006 with a healthy Hasek, they have a chance to win the cup that year, right?
Yeah.
So these are massive contracts, massive risks, massive injuries, and that's why I wonder, all these guys are so fired up. Like, maybe you get told, because like you said, all these guys are just itching to do it before, like, we're not sure about the ice. Like, fuck it, we're going. Like, let's go. You get over there, 3 or 4 games where the ice is terrible. Somebody, even like a minor injury, somebody tweaks an ankle or a knee going down because of the ice. I don't think it's off the table that the tournament starts but doesn't finish. And that would maybe be a bigger disaster than skipping it all together. Like, the embarrassment of the whole thing. And then I don't know what to do, right? You got 3 weeks carved out of your...
I want to believe, Matt. I want to be a positive dude.
Okay.
I want to believe that it's all just a smoke screen and it's getting people fired up and this is all going to work out. I don't know.
And there is an element of that. We always, before any Olympics, go, oh, I see the Village isn't finished yet or whatever. And by the time we get there, it almost always runs smoothly. But this looks...
Or behind the scenes, it looks terrible. Like, you never know.
Sure.
I
but on TV,
reading an
it
article.
looks good.
Yeah, I remember reading an article years ago about how bad Vancouver looked after the Olympics, right? Because that's the thing. You bring these big events in and so many people come and it's such a big deal. Then you leave and it's like, yeah, this place is now like kind of left into a dump. And it's kind of like, wow, like it just how quickly it leaves. My aspect of it is the smaller rink is how it's going to affect picking the roster. And if it is going to affect it at all, right?
Yeah.
Can you bring a bigger guy like a Tom Wilson now? Because you know what? He might be more useful in a smaller ice where he could be more physical and use that big body. Or are they looking at it as like, you know what? We don't want to have that. We would rather have the guys.
Or there's less space to operate. Maybe we need one more skill guy who can make something happen out of nowhere, right? Like, how do you look at it?
And the thing I love about it this year so far is the fact that we've seen so many of these young Canadian guys that were like, all right, it's going to take like a big year for them to kind of step up and make sure that they're, going to put themselves even maybe on the radar as a potential guy. And then, oh, wow, all of a sudden, it's basically Nathan McKinnon in the young guys game. Like, here comes Connor Bedard, showing up, and it's like, he
Max
deserves to be on
Celebrini
this
looks
team.
Incredible. Matthew Schaefer has been unbelievable. I don't think there's any chance Hockey Canada's taking an 18-year-old defenseman, but he put himself in the conversation. He's been unbelievable, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's it's just awesome to see because I was always the believer of Connor Bedard. I think I've told you a couple times, he deserves to be on this roster. He's making the roster. It's so good to have these guys around. Celebrini has played himself to a spot where it's like, you know what? He absolutely needs to be there too. Like, look, these guys are putting in goals. They're skating. They bring that different style energy. They bring that extra juice. And you have your McDavids, you have your Crosbys, you have your guys that are going to be there, but there's nobody better for Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini to learn from than these two guys. This roster, this is potentially going to be one of the best Canadian rosters we've ever seen. Like, it's crazy to think about something like that.
In 4 years, these two guys you're talking about will be the guys, the top line guys. So why wouldn't you want them learning from McKinnon and from Crosby? And this is the time.
The goaltending is not always going to be the bigger issue, but forward wise, and like I said, one of the best rosters. I mean, forward wise, because I thought it's pretty hard to say 2010. Anything will beat that. I feel like that was the year too. But I look at this roster that is potential, and I'm thinking like the young guys coming up are finally, stepping up, and I think that it's perfect for guys like Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby. Like, they're right there to kind of pass the torch and show these guys for their development in the NHL, but also just being able to handle that pressure of being around Team Canada. A guy like, Sidney Crosby playing with Jerome McGinley in 2010, right? Like, it's those moments that you remember. And you look at this.
I'm a little older than you, Bunda. 2002, Joe Sakic between Iginla
Sakic.
This is it, yes. Between Iginla and Gagne, both just kids at that point, right? And playing, on a line with Sakic, but on a team with Lemieux and Yzerman and Lindros and Shanahan and Pronger and Blake and Niedermeyer. And it goes on, man. You find room for a couple of kids because it can only help you down the road. And it ends up being Iginla 8 years later, setting up the gold medal winning goal in overtime, not fazed by the pressure, but he was thrown in there when he was young, and it paid off later on. And so you need to keep those things in mind when you build a team like this, man. Before we wrap up, we should talk a little bit about the fight game. I'm curious this week where your attention has been. Is it on the card that we just saw on Saturday, or that you just saw on Saturday? I may have fallen asleep. I got to be real with you, man. I am excited for the new 9 p.m. start times that are coming in January as I age rapidly. Are you sort of thinking back about what just happened on Saturday night, or are you looking ahead to what we've seen here announced as some pretty good-looking cards to start 2026?
A lot. I think, you look back at this year and how crazy it was, and Merab was a guy that was up for fighter of the year, right? He was
4 title fights in a calendar year.
Yeah, and it's something that was crazy, and sure enough, it was the 4th one that did him in because he got dragged around the ring. He got beat up for once. It was kind of crazy to see.
Shocking.
Yeah, and it was something we weren't used to seeing, but it's something that it's good to see. Petr Yan, good for him.
Yeah.
He picked a perfect time to have the best fight of his career.
Yes.
I look at that. For me, I'm always thinking about fights in general. That's the weird thing, dude. Like, what am I looking for? I'm looking at back fights. I'm thinking about, Alexander Pantoja, another guy, too, who's been so good and just a freak injury.
Yeah.
And no one to fight. And then all of a sudden, it's like, boom. Now what do we have? We have Joshua Van, who's a young 24-year-old guy. He's been on fire. He kind of shows up, and he's like, all right, give him a title shot because Pantoja has nobody else. Well, boom. Now this sets us up for a very good spot in that flyweight division, the flyweight division, to just see, okay, like, where are we going to be? Teixeira that night, knocked out Brendan Moreno, one of my favorite guys. But hey, he's showing up and he's 18-1. It's like, you're going to have some competition here now. And at the same time, here's Pantoja still, he's going to be injured for a little while. Very gruesome, very tough injury to see. I think it was like 15, 20 seconds into the fight. Like, it was crazy to see an injury like that happen. It was really disappointing to kind of go through that.
Especially on the heels of what we just saw in the heavyweight division, right? Where guy gets poked in the eye early in the fight. No, this is a guy who, Tom Aspinall, who's been waiting and waiting for John Jones. Finally, that gets resolved. Okay, here we go. We're going to give you. It was Cyril Gahn, I believe, was it not? That he gets poked in the eye and he can't continue. Well, he gets poked in both eyes, actually. And so you feel for a guy like that. It's the same thing. Early in a fight, he's just looking to defend his title, get his career back on track, and all of a sudden the fight's called off. It sounds like there's actually been some damage there, and it's taking him some time to heal up. But like, you hate to see that, man, in a title fight early on, and you don't get the fight. Look, fights are physical, man. Fights are hard. Injuries can happen, but you hate to see it go that way so early on, where you don't even get into the meat of the fight.
Yeah, and that's the aspect of it, that it's fighting, right? It's you're basically beating yourself up for a living, and injuries are going to happen regardless in sports. But when you're in a tough one like this, I look, though, and I think, what's been awesome to see is the fact that, we have a little guy like Henry Cejudo come back, and he's like, I'm going to put myself in there, and he's chirping Sean O'Malley, and he put himself, and he comes out with 4 straight losses.
Yeah.
And again, the other night against Talbot, he got kind of ragdolled around, and there was,
it's time for him to go, man.
I think that's the thing. He retired because he wasn't getting the way that superstar guys were getting paid, even though he was Triple C, and I bring in all the money and I leave and then I still miss it, and then I come back and you lose to Aljamain Sterling, Merab, Song Yadong, and now Peyton Talbot, who a lot of these guys are good fighters, but at the same time, it's like, what'd you come back for? The other night watching him lose was kind of like, whatever. Vukovic getting another, a draw, very much on Jan Vukovic's. He's such an polarizing fighter because he can show up and have some big fights, but then he could just disappear. And he's been so disappointing like that over his career, because you look at some of the fights, like his draw against Ankalaev was like, oh man, this sucks. like, I don't know what to make of him. And then I think of Bokovic, and I'm like, okay, well, you know what? He's had some big wins. Like, Israel Adesanya, he kind of like ruined his, I don't want to say ruined his career, but, he put him in a spot where he took that loss when he tried to move up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, man, that kind of ruined him. And then, you look at Bokovic, well, Carlos Ulberg kind of stepped up and beat him up. And then so did Alex Pereira. And now, like, he's been on a slide the last 4 or 5 fights he's been in. And it's like, okay, like, who is this guy? You know what? I think we're finally learning out who he is. So, I looked at the card the other night, and my girl, Macy Barber, we were talking about her on social media. Love to see the Macy, the future Barber. She's crazy. I remember Dana White always talking about, there's one fighter that pisses me off. It's Macy Barber, because she's texting me every day about wanting to fight, wants to fight. She went through some injuries. She dealt with some adversity. She's put herself in a big spot in a great run here right now. She's matured as a fighter. I think it's awesome for her to be in the spot. So I was excited to see that. I expect her to do some big things next year. So I'm excited for that. And then, as for that, I look back at the year and I'm thinking, like, we saw some names kind of emerge. And I think I said at the beginning of the year, keep an eye on guys like Paddy Pimblett, Carlos Ulberg. There, I thought there was a couple of big names that were kind of going to show up this year. And sure enough, a couple of them have. But I think the better thing is now that, I don't want to say it was kind of a lower hype year, but would you not agree? The UFC was...
I think they're still struggling to find their next stars, right? Like, people who are going to break out into the mainstream. And you keep seeing, like, there's no better example than the card they set up for, I think it's January 24th, where you go, you're trying hard to build stars instead of making the best fights for the most deserving guys. And I get it. Like, Paddy Pimblett is, I know, one of your boys. And look, he's full value to be high on a card, but over Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes, like, you've got an interim fight, an interim title fight ahead of like a Legends fight, a real title fight as your main event and co-main event. I think you've got that backwards. And to me, that's the UFC trying hard to force a new star, right? To try and create some buzz or some hype. And I think it's being done at the expense of better fights, at the expense of making this more merit-based. And I think that's a bit of a bummer. And it's not to say that Gaethje isn't deserving of high spots on a card, or that, certainly Paddy Pimblett isn't. I just think Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes is a real championship fight. That main event's a card over any interim title. To me, that was silly, man.
I look at both of them as just kind of like, and when I look at that card and the way they're going to start the year, like, that's how you do it. Like, this is how you do it. You put together a stacked card like this with numerous names.
I got no beef with the card. I don't love the order of the fights, I think is my...
I'm kind of a flip a coin and give me these fights in any of these orders. I look at it as, all right, we have an interim fight between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett. Justin Gaethje, everybody knows when he's in the octagon, it's an amazing fight.
He's crazy, yeah.
He's a main eventer because of the way he fights. Paddy Pimblett, like you said, young guy, trying to turn him, put him into a star. He kind of is that spot. The only thing I look at it between Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes is Amanda Nunes is coming out of retirement. What is she going to do after she wins or loses this fight? Is she going to go back to retirement? Is she going to fight? If she wins, you kind of just ruin the bantamweight title. Like, I look at this fight.
Sure, if she beats Harrison and then retires again, but she is Harrison a legend coming back. Maybe.
Like, there's a lot that can go into this. Like, there's a lot. These two are older. Like, I look at that as this is nothing against them, because again,
to me though, it's no more complicated than one's a real title, one's an interim title. The real one goes 100%. On top. That's all I'm saying.
But is it a real title when someone comes out of retirement to fight? Like, sure it is, but I look at this as, man, what happens next? And I think that's where they put Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje, because you get Gaethje versus Ilia Topuria. Again, Gaethje probably will win this fight because he's the king of interim championships, but then when he gets the championship, he doesn't show up. And I love Justin Gaethje, but I see what you are saying, and I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I look at both of these, like those fights, even O'Malley versus Song Yadong. Like, again, O'Malley's one of their probably most popular and prized fighters, and he hasn't even won his last 2 fights, right? So I look at that as a situation where there's a lot of these fights. I think they built this card perfectly for the purposes of bringing in the new viewers on Paramount Plus and CBS, and
in the US,
going to stack it. Yeah, and that's the thing. And they want to put these fighters out there. And Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes are in a spot where, yeah, they probably deserve the top fight of the night, but they probably looked at this wrong. But I also look at that fight as like, okay, this could either be over early and it's going to be a weird fight because Kayla Harrison is just so much more dominant than Amanda Nunes because she went home and she's been retired for a while and she kind of got goaded into coming out of retirement to make sure she can kind of defend her belt. Does she get embarrassed, or does she, does she come into a spot where she comes in and she cleans up Kayla Harrison and then
but with a fighter like Gaethje, that could be over fast too, in either direction.
Both of them,
yes.
But that's that fight, right? That's the fight aspect of it. And Patty and Justin Gaethje, like that was a great fight to make. I love the fact that they made that, and I love the fact that we see Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. Because if Amanda Nunes comes out of retirement and beats her, it kind of like ruins ruins Kayla Harrison's career because she's out here dominating, and Amanda Nunes is like, actually, I'm still here.
The bear kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird spot. But then I don't want to see Amanda Nunes do what Henry Cejudo just did, come out of retirement, obviously on a lesser notice, and she's like, you know what, I get beat up. Like there's a lot that goes into that fight that could be very controversial. Whereas it's like Paddy Pimblett's either going to fight Ilia Topuria or Justin Gaethje's on his last run, and he fights Ilia Topuria after this fight, and it's going to be a war. So again, there's 3 fights there that you could flip a coin, and even like I said, O'Malley versus Song Yadong feels like a random fight because Song Yadong is whatever, but O'Malley being on the card is pretty big too. And
it's a big card.
Even you go back after that, there's a good couple fights like Waldo Cortez Acosta and Derek Lewis. Like that's a pretty sick fight. But you go through that whole card, the prelims, man. Rose Namajunas, Doug Rose, man,
on the prelims,
Divison Figueiredo. Right, Umar Nurmagomedov, the guy fought for a title last year.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like this is how crazy.
And you're correct to point out, right? This is the debut card on Paramount Plus with CBS. Yeah. They're looking to build a monster night, and they have done that, right? They have created some really good fights. Last thing on it, man, I keep hearing the name Ronda Rousey, and you and I have debated this thing, the White House card, and we don't have to get too deep into the politics of it. I've been clear. It bugs me that we're doing this for this guy, but we're doing it. We're having a card on the grounds of the White House. But man, I'm a little worried, and maybe I shouldn't be worried. Maybe this should have always been obvious to me. This is not a card that's going to be about making the best fights. This is about celebrity, right? I won't be shocked, even now as we sit here in December, if Conor McGregor is on that card. I won't be shocked if fucking Ronda Rousey is on this card, right? Like, it feels like this is more, it'll be in a UFC octagon, it'll be on pay-per-view or whatever the Paramount Plus equivalent is, but this is not a card being built around the most deserving current UFC fighters. It sure feels like this is who can we safely put in there as UFC names and draw attention, does it not?
Yes and no. Until we get a fight card, like again, we're talking about this fight 324, the first fight, and we're talking about where things are slotted. If Ronda Rousey's on the main card as like the first fight or the second fight, I wouldn't be upset. But if she's the main event, obviously it's like, what the hell? Like, I really don't like Ronda Rousey. I really think
this
that
is what I'm saying, though. She's a name, though.
And I'll even bring up another name. A guy I touted, I thought my big prediction of the year was going to be having Francis Ngannou versus John Jones this year. Well, all of a sudden, here come headlines the other day. Francis Ngannou, whoa, my deal is up with the PFL before the White House. And he's throwing his name. I feel like everybody wants to be a part of a historic card like that. It's just, what's the UFC going to do? Are they, like, again, this is so early to be making these announcements and whatnot.
Yeah,
but
and who gets
at the same time,
who's
everyone
healthy
wants their hat in the ring to be able to fight on this card. And it's going to be like, if Ronda Rousey's on the prelims, like the last prelim fight, I could care less.
She's
fighting whatever.
She's not going to be on the prelims. If you're bringing Ronda Rousey back, they'll give her a keen spot.
If you're looking at the rest of, like, say Kayla Harrison beats Amanda Nunes pretty easily, she's going to want to be, a big American girl. She wants to be able to put on in that octagon too. I guarantee that. Like, there's going to be a good couple. Like, we've heard from so many people. It's
John Jones.
John Jones. All Conor McGregor. Like,
that's what I'm saying. These are all names from the past. These are not current factors. It's a freak show to me.
If you have a real couple fights, though, I could care less about how all the, like, if Connor's on like the main card, but like the first fight or second fight, whatever it is, as long as we get some real fights. If it's just like a celebrity boxing thing, like we've seen, like the Paul brothers are into, and you know what, like Floyd Mayweather and all these
James
fights,
Toney or something.
Yeah, like I don't need any of these guys doing that. No. I don't want that card. Again, I could care less about this White House card. I think it'd be cool if it actually does happen and they put together a real card. I'll watch it. Obviously, I don't really like the politics behind it, but as a UFC fan and a fight guy, I'm going to watch it, like, no matter what. Like, it's what I want to do. But at the same time, I don't really care for all of this extra stuff. If we get down to like June and they're like, okay, yeah, so here's what the card is, and it's like, oh, cool, like, or like this is what it is, and it's like Ronda Rousey as a main event or Conor McGregor as a main event, whatever.
That's
like,
what I'm worried about, man.
That's what's going to bother me. But if we have legitimate people wanting to fight, like if John Jones comes out of retirement and he wants to fight Francis Ngannou and the heavyweight, I gotta be real with you, man.
For me right now, John Jones is in the Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor category. You just show up now and then. You're more of a star than an actual fighter. To me, he's on that level. The only difference is
Ronda Rousey hasn't been around for quite a while. Like, she kind of lost
Conor.
Oh, Connor, absolutely. I don't know. I honestly, Connor has been my.
Is he still running for prime minister? Like,
I have no idea what that guy's ever doing. That's the problem. He's doing everything but fighting, but always talking about how he's going to fight people. Yeah. I don't understand that, and I don't think, like, that's my problem with him. Is when the card comes out and he's on it, I'm not even going to be sold. It's going to take him walking into the octagon for me to believe he's actually back. Because I could see him literally pulling out like a minute before the fight. Like, that's like, he's just such a non-committal kind of guy right now. And he's just, he's useless to rely on. So I look at like him and I'm like, I don't really care. If he's on the card, then he's on the card. If he's not on the card, I'm not surprised.
I think my complaint, man, is that the whole card might look like that kind of thing as opposed to it being that would be, yeah.
But if Ronda Rousey, like, again, like, I look at that situation as like the way she ended her UFC career, kind of on a couple losses and kind of, was sour about it and just kind of took off and then went to the WWE to be like their star and then kind of like, dipped out on them, and
there too,
and then kind of tried to come back, and is still a big name, and I really respected what she did for the UFC when she kind of took the torch and she brought women's UFC on the map.
100%.
But she also was like a UFC star. Like, not just women's fighting. She was a UFC star.
Yes.
She put herself in a spot where, kind of like Connor, they got too big, they got into the movies, they got so much money, and then they just kind of forgot about training and forgot about caring about fighting, and that's what sucked. So when I look at Ronda Rousey, it's like, why does she want to come back to the octagon? She hasn't even been in the octagon in forever. When I look at Connor, it's like the same thing. It's like, he just wants to pretend because he wants to still be a big dog too. It's like, I don't know. I'm not buying them. John Jones, I could see him coming out of retirement because he kind of did fight recently, but he also is just such a wishy-washy guy outside the octagon that maybe he's not even able to fight because he's friggin' in jail. Who knows?
I'll tell you how you do this. That's a great point, man. But I tell you how you do this with any of these, Ronda, Connor, John Jones, any of them. We will sign you to this card and we will give you a real fight. But there is a serious financial penalty if you bail, if you don't make it to fight night. Like, this, give them a consequence. Now, short of, I blew my knee out in training, right? Like, it can't be, and I don't want to rip on the guy because the guy's actually a really good fighter and has saved the UFC on a couple times. But Alex Pereira, at one point, like, we were talking about, his toes haven't healed yet, right? And look, I get it. If you're in there trying to kick people and it's a real fight, that matters. But I need, short of a blown MCL on Conor McGregor, you're getting in the fucking octagon. And I would have that if this is what I'm building, my biggest card ever around, and it's going to be on the grounds of the White House, and I feel the need to bring back a Conor McGregor or a Ronda Rousey or any number of flakes who have been out there in the past, we'll sign you to this card. But you owe us money if you don't make it to the octagon that night. I think that's the only way you can protect yourself. And even then, I'm only sort of half interested, but at least it would keep them from bailing out at the last minute like we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I really hope that they don't let the hype around it and everybody wanting to fight. But I am curious to see what Dana does. Does he make a super card where the prelims are a lot of the legendaries? Does he, have to put some of them? Like, again, I'm sure if Conor McGregor,
you know what it feels like to me, man? WrestleMania. Where if you watch,
that's exactly it. Yeah,
if you watch wrestling all year, you get 2 or 3 matches that have been building all year with your current stars. but there's going to be a return, like The Undertaker's coming back for one night, or Goldberg, or fucking Brock Lesnar, or something like people who you don't see anymore. They're not really part of it anymore, but for one night, we're putting on a show. That's what this feels like a little bit to me, man. We're just going to bring back some names, and if it's a good fight, whatever. But I don't think that's the way this is being built.
Yeah, the other big thing too, though, is like they're not going to be offering a lot of seats to this event. So it's not like they're going to be making a lot of money off of that. So they need viewers, right? That's the thing. So when you compare it to WrestleMania, that is a very, very good point, because that's exactly what this could be. It could be, we can only get I can't remember what they said. I think maybe like 20,000 people there, which, they're used to a bit more than that. So obviously it's going to be a big deal, but they want the draw. They want the people to sit at home and watch it. That's going to be the biggest thing.
Yep.
And how they do that is by putting some of these names on the card. So it's a matter of who actually shows up and who actually wants to fight. But yeah, that's such a good point, man. That's such a good point.
It's the return of The Rock or Stone Cold or something.
Yeah.
One night only.
Here comes Stone Cold and Ric Flair. And,
100%. Shawn Michaels is coming out of retirement for one night.
Yeah, he's got one more match left in him. It's true. And I feel like that's what everyone's doing, is this is their WrestleMania big fight, because they're treating it more than, which bothers me, because if Conor McGregor makes sure he's healthy, and again, he's serving his suspension right now, that is up right before that, so he can potentially fight there. But it would bother me more that, this guy bailed and really wouldn't put together and commit to a fight with Michael Chandler for like 2 years.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden it's a White House fight, and he's like, I want to fight now.
I'm good to go now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, okay, you couldn't take. That's what bothers me the most about it. Man. And I'm hoping, and the one thing I like is Dana White is a very, he's a tough guy like that. But at the same time, he also knows he's a businessman. He needs to get all the eyes.
It's the president, big show.
Paramount
need
Plus
names.
comes up, and if this card at the beginning of the year kicks things off and the ratings are good, whatever. If it doesn't, and like the next couple cards go downhill and downhill and downhill, and the ratings
we're not getting the viewers we want. We need names, man.
It could alter things in April and February, March, when they start getting ready and start putting together fights for that potential card. It could be an absolute thought in Dana White's mind of, I kind of need guys like Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey and Francis Ngannou and John Jones, and we got to figure out a couple fights here and then mix in like one or two good fights, and boom, there you go.
It's true, man. We'll see how this shakes loose, but as you can tell, I am skeptical that this is going to be the type of card that I'm, and it just bums me out a little. All of those spots, all those names we just mentioned of guys and girls who could return, are taking big spotlight spots away from current active fighters busting their ass every day, and that bugs me. So, man, we'll wrap it up here. It's always a good conversation. I can hear, I don't know if it's coming through on the microphone right now, the plows are back in the parking lot outside the building, knocking over the TCA fans who were waiting for you and who weren't there, or you didn't show up for, but you did show up in person. But man, the roads still suck. I know you got a couple things you're dealing with, but whether it be on the mic or not, we need to try and get together for a couple of pints before the holiday season. But if that doesn't happen, man, thank you all year for making the time for this show and coming in and coming on as often as you do, man. You're one of those guys I know TCA can lean on, and certainly when the Cottage, I think this was the first year we've ever done Cottage to Cottage podcasts, man. That was something new in 2025. Appreciate you, brother.
No, that's right. And don't worry. We'll make time to have a Christmas pint. It'll be all good. And as for the TCA fans, I was tricking you today. They are all expecting me out. No, I'm going to sneak in there when they're least expecting it. They probably think I'm done for the Christmas year. But no, Matty, always love getting on with you and being able to do this and, chop it up. And I hope your pint was good.
Delicious, man.
Nice 8%. So you're either craving another one or you're craving a nap. So I don't know which one. So
this could go either way.
Thanks again for having me on, man, and always asking me, and it's always fun to do this, and for everyone that listens and loves it, Merry Christmas to y'all, and thank you for always listening to us. And Maddie is always a dog that I love going over and hanging out with and having some pints and doing this with. So it's great to be able to do this, and you know what, I hope everybody listening has a great Christmas, and absolutely for you as well. Like I said, we'll have a Christmas beer before that, but you know what, Maddie, for you and your family and everybody, thank you again for having having me on all the time. I know, my mom and people that listen, they love it when I get to do this. So it's fun to be able to do it. And
we got an Instagram follow from Bonnie. That was a big moment for us this year.
Bonnie will always be, my number one fan. She's always there supporting me and listening. So again, thanks for always asking me and giving me that chance to give my mom, even though I'm on the radio 5 days a week, she needs one more chance to listen to me. And,
man.
And she's getting ready for some warm weather, and I'll be taking over the farm soon. So it'll be a very very good Christmas for everybody. And I just I'm excited to spend some time with my mom and my family and everybody that we can do it. And a Christmas dinner is always good. Love a good Christmas dinner. And it's winter time, so it's time to start the sleds. And you know what? Maybe get a couple days wintertime at the cottage. Always love that. So either way, Matty, thank you for having me on, man. I'm excited that you always ask me, and it's good to do it. We'll have a pint, man. Cheers, dude.
It's the season of the sleds, and over here it's the season of the stouts. So
stouts.
That's where we'll.
Sounds like you're going to sleep by the tone.
There is a little bit of that sinking in. I think reality has hit me here. Yeah, that's where we'll wind this one up. Same to you, my man. Hope it's a fantastic holiday season. But like you said, we'll try and organize some off-air pints here before then. But to the rest of you, as I mentioned off the top, Andrew Stoughton was here yesterday. The Batflip.ca and the Blue Jays Happy Hour podcast. Lots of baseball talk with him coming out of the winter meetings. Check that one out wherever you're hearing us right now, or visit tallcanaudio.com. And Rob and I back on Monday morning, so stay tuned for that as well. For Steve Bunda, my name's Matt Robinson. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll catch you next time.
That's it. I cannot work under these conditions. If anybody wants me, I'll be downstairs at McDougal's. Call the weekend guy. I don't care.